Today's date is March 8th. It's 6:33.
Locke Management Association.
Locke Management Association.
This
Yes.
way I can identify the recording.
From the Locke Foundation, exactly. Okay, good. Establish a quorum. We have, I believe, 8 seated members, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here, and 2 more are expected. So we have a quorum.
It's also been easy for me if we do a roll call, then I'm sure I have a listening.
Thank you. I will put. We should write that on the agenda
I'll write that
review.
on the notes for you next.
Thank you. Okay, roll call for attendance. Please start. with
Mendel? Wu? Leo?
Ohms.
Alexander. Mock.
Wonderful. We have taken roll call, and again, we indeed have a quorum. Before we start our work, that we're here for, I'm going to read a few things I want to just to make clear. The purpose of this association is to improve and promote the economic well-being, preserve the cultural and historical integrity, and manage the town of Locke. The population of the town is about 70 people, and with 6 elected board members and 1 member at large who's also living in the town, we have about 10% of the population on the board running the town. The Locke Management Association is comprised of about 35 members. And to be a member, one must own a building in the town, and there are many multiple building owners, so that's why there's only 35 members, because I think there's 50 buildings. These meetings are business meetings where we make decisions to keep the town running. We also take care of the day-to-day necessities of paying bills for insurance, phone lines, town lighting, inspections, and other general maintenance issues. Like almost all towns, we are not responsible for sidewalks or buying fire extinguishers or smoke alarms. Each homeowner is responsible for their own sidewalk, and Sacramento County requires all buildings to have smoke and carbon detectors in their house, carbon monoxide detectors. We follow the Brown Act. We also fill out, all of us, yearly Form 700s, which is a conflict of interest reporting. We are unpaid volunteers, some of us driving, I think, 70 miles round trip to get here,
90.
once a month.
90?
90 miles, okay. Our finances are maintained by Bruce Pisoni and Associates. We don't maintain them. We do not even write our checks, but we do sign them. We have 2 signatures required when they are written. So we're here tonight to do work. In accordance with the Brown Act, everyone attending this meeting will be given 3 minutes to comment on every agenda item. We ask that you help by giving us information that will help us arrive at a more fully informed decision. Please do not disrupt by shouting out or talking out of turn. Also, the board's personal business agenda is ours to discuss and is not open to public comment. So when we begin our approvals of minutes and treasurer's report, that's not open to public comment. But you feel free to comment at the end of the meeting. Then that's your time, but not at that time when we're doing it. And last thing is, we're a public body. We're totally public. Everything we do or say is open to public viewpoint. You can look at our records at any time, so therefore we use the names of our LMA board members openly in our meeting, and that's what we do because we're public and that's what we're set up to do. Okay, moving on. Treasurer's report. Or, pardon me, first thing is approval of minutes, February 9th. Have we all read the minutes?
Excuse me, do you have any more packets for the public?
What did you need? I had 2 things out there.
Everything and one more than
That's what I got. I'd like to move to approve the minutes.
It's been moved to approve the minutes. Do I hear a second? I just have a question. Do you send these out electronically
To
to the board members so we can read them before the meeting?
I haven't, no.
Okay,
I could do that.
that would be great, because then we could read it and be ready with
Okay.
something, instead of some of us who just reading them for the first time have
Sure,
to
and
go
I've
through.
recently added the watermark draft, so that hadn't occurred to me, so that anyone who gets a hold of this realizes that this is not an approved minute.
Exactly, until we prove it tonight.
Right.
So
And
does
I
it,
will also be adding on the bottom to the approved minutes, a stamp that says approved with the date and my signature, so.
okay, great. Does anybody have any changes? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve our minutes. Please signify by saying aye. Any opposition? Wonderful, please don't disrupt. Do not disrupt. Okay, moving on, we're moving on to the treasurer's report. James, do you have a treasurer's report?
Yes, we do. In your packet, there's just, the normal stuff that we do. I'd like you to take a look at our total assets. They're total $30,390.59. For now. We are, the profit and loss, you can look at the reasons that, if you note down at the bottom, what's different from last year to this year at this time is we spent a little over $3,000 on tree removal that had been needed because it posed a danger on the ground. As far as the final page, the general aging summary, we are still in the process of pursuing our delinquent accounts and are in just the slow litigation or the legal process of moving forward on those that have refused to pay their assessments. I'm open for any questions.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions for the treasurer or about the report? All right, do I hear a motion to approve our treasurer's report?
Excuse me, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Great, well,
Excuse me,
is
sir.
there any further questions on the board here? No, okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the treasurer's report. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Public
Good,
question.
the motion carries.
Brown Act
Please,
violation.
please do not disrupt this meeting. Do not disrupt this meeting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Brown Act violation.
Do not disrupt this meeting.
Public
Agenda
Act
items are open to discussion, not this.
Every-
We're moving on to old business.
Item, sir.
We're moving on to old business. The first thing on the agenda is information. The report of the final Superior Court decision in the matter of LMA versus Esch and LeBlanc and Esch versus LMA.
That should be a
Would you
closed
like to,
session.
would you like to talk about that, Darrell, and sort of bring us up to speed in case any of us aren't? And members of the public who are not familiar?
So, this week, our attorneys filed, back to the court, after the court, Brown, Superior Court, Sacramento County, issued his final judgment, or proposed final judgment, in the matter of Locke Management Association versus Martha Esch and Donna LeBlanc.
It's a privacy violation.
He ruled in favor of the LMA, and that the bottom line is that Ms. Esch has been holding the property at, what's the address, 12?
1265, I think, was it?
Yeah, 1265 Levy Road, in constructive trust for the LMA. And so our attorneys have taken that and is asking the judge to enter the judgment. And upon entry of the judgment, we have X number of days to proffer. We need to the LMA needs to open up an escrow. The LMA, at the time, the LMA will must put into escrow the amount of $21,000, which will be turned over to Ms. Esch when the deed is turned over to the LMA. So Once the, as the prevailing party, if the judge signs this order, the LMA, let me read this, prevailing party and jurisdiction reserved. Based on the granting of summary judgment herein, the court finds that the plaintiff Locke Management Association is the prevailing party as to its own complaint filed May 20th, 2011. Furthermore, the court previously entered an interlocutory judgment on November 24, 2014 in favor of the Locke Management Association dismissing defendant Martha Esch's amended cross-complaint for violation of civil rights. The court previously found the Locke Management Association was the prevailing party in the November 24, 2014 interlocutory judgment. Accordingly, the court finds that the plaintiff, that's us, Locke Management Association, is the sole prevailing party for each complaint and cross-complaint filed in this manner. The plaintiff may move the court for its costs and attorney's fees, which the court will hereafter consider. The court retains jurisdiction over this matter pursuant to California Civil Procedure Section 664.6 to enforce this judgment. So once the judge signs this order, we need to prepare it to be ready, willing, and able to proffer the money for the said property, and then as well, our attorneys will move for costs and attorney's fees.
Wonderful. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about the report? Any board members? All right, I'm going to open it up now to public comment. Does anyone want to speak publicly about this? You have 3 minutes. Please.
I was not given one word in court to my own defense. No, the unconstitutionality of your right of first refusal policy and your statement in the letter of March 26, 2011 from your legal advisory committee is unconstitutional. Had I been a Chinese person, I would not have had this lawsuit thrust upon me for the last 5 years. I would not be losing my property, which I improved greatly, substantially. I replaced the rotted out wood in the building. I fought for 2.5 years. These same very board members here who tried to keep me from getting a building permit to add handicap access, a wheelchair ramp, a door, and 2 windows to the property. There was rat waste throughout the property. There were broken windows. You have been making online Facebook postings defaming my good reputation and slandering me and making lies and saying that my friend Connie King is, Mr. Motlow, you in particular, are making defamatory remarks about my friendship with Connie King, and I don't appreciate it. It's opposite day and Locke again, as my friend Diane often says. When you folks say something, it's opposite day and Locke. The unconstitutionality of your right of first refusal policy and that March 26, 2000 letter that you sent to Attorney Richard Lee, the attorney for the seller, that 400 Chinese ancestors and descendants of Locke shall have the right to purchase, the priority to purchase the Locke property. That is unconstitutional. I'm wondering if we're still living in America or if this is a different country. It's unconstitutional. I love Chinese people. I love Mexican people. I love Canadian people and American people, Russian people. I love all people. But for you to say that I have to fit a preferred ancestry in order to own property in Locke, California, USA, is ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to comment? All right, then public comment is closed. Does anyone want to say anything on the board or further discussion?
No?
Next on the agenda is Department of Community Development's proposed changes to the Locke SPA, or the Locke Special Planning Area. They've been working on this for like 4 or 5 months now, and they're finally coming to a conclusion. And I'm really sorry that Jay isn't here, because Jay has been the lead in these changes. He has worked closely with the Special Planning Department and made it happen. Can you bring us a little up to
Well,
speed? You
I
can
can
close.
tell you from Tim's material that he sent to the association with responses to Jay's questions about some of the changes, which came from our previous meeting. We met, Jay said he would make notes of all of our questions and bring them to the DECMAC meeting the following day. James Malvo and Jay Korea attended that DECMAC meeting. I don't know if James could add more, but I did give the directors a hard copy of the draft of the communications Jay had with Tim from the planning department to go over the issues that we were concerned with. So I expected Jay to be here, and I believe that all of our concerns were answered. I was hoping that we could explain what the changes were.
The big changes.
Vote, because DECMAC is now meeting on the 13th of April, and they would like to hear from us so that they can vote to approve the SBA after hearing our response.
Right. Gil LaBrie, the chairman of that committee, wants written confirmation of what we decided.
Right. So I don't have a calendar in front of me.
Yeah, what's our LMA meeting in April? What's the date?
Will we be able to make it?
April.
Second Tuesday.
Our feet aren't nailed to the
No,
floor.
we're not.
I
We can
think
make
we could change it.
Well,
Oh, gee.
So,
Unfortunately, DECMAC usually meets on Wednesdays, and we usually meet on Tuesdays, so
Right.
that's great. So if we want, we could continue this, ask Jay to finalize all our questions, if there are any
Okay,
left.
and make sure he shows up in the next meeting.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for him the first of the door, but he hasn't.
hasn't come.
So also, can I
Yes.
just want to add a
Change.
little bit, because I was at that meeting
Yes.
today, and the perception that DECMAC had at the time was that we were coming there with a written approval of some sort of what they had proposed.
Yes.
We were either coming with whatever, and they were, in fact, we had befuddled that we had, and it was at our urging that we needed to have more time in order to look at what these proposals were,
Right.
to get with our board and come up with something that we would be willing to stand by. Because that was David Lee's, the chairman's, major concern. Was there something that he could take and say, we have had word from the Locke Management Association, and these are what they're agreeing to.
The bridges have changed it too, because the bridge closure extended the date. Yeah, yes.
I'm wondering if we could possibly wrap it up today with the proper motion. Because I have full confidence in what Jay is working out with Tim.
Uh-huh.
And I wonder if a motion could be made that we approve the changes to the SPA contingent upon Jay's final review and approval. That as a board, we would, I don't know, would anybody,
Well, we've all been involved with it. We've all more or less read everything about it. So, I don't know, what does the board feel? I can wait till next meeting.
it's just that if we wait till next meeting, we'll have, less than 24 hours
To write a
to
letter.
get a letter done. I mean, which is not impossible. I mean, that can all be done. Get a letter done, get it to Gil LaBrie, before his meeting, so he's got it, he knows.
Anyone else have ideas?
Well, so would we have in a sense, give Jay the final say on this? And to to say, okay, is this the letter that he is going to, in other words, his approval of what he's working out with Tim will be what we stand behind.
That is more or less what I'm saying, because he is
That's what I'm
working
trying
on
to-
the key elements that we
Right.
already brought into question.
Darrell?
I have a thought, more of a comment. We can, as a board, authorize Jay to finalize comments to be turned in. Have him circulate the draft to us, and then we are authorizing ourselves to vote on the draft. And then when we have a majority of the board approving that draft, I think then you can send it forward as the comments of the
Okay, and then we can meet for a public meeting on the 12th
board. then-
and vote.
No, we will have already voted, but you can place into the agenda the final letter that we sent in. Because we're authorizing him to draft the final comments based on the comments that we have before us anyway. And he's working on them, so he's our lead. So we have confidence that he's going to meet the needs of the LMA.
Right.
But my thought is to take action today to authorize him to finalize the comments, circulate the comments amongst the board one more time, and once he gets a majority of the board approval, he can forward it on. And then we will have that in our notes at the next meeting.
Okay.
I kind of see something in between what Daryl's saying and what Debbie's saying. I think it's a good idea if he showed up at the meeting with the final draft, so it's not a big paperwork thing, but I'm more comfortable with, in the next meeting, us all getting our final say, getting to hear the little, because we had a lot of questions on this.
That's right.
I mean, there was a lot of confusion too.
And the public.
And the public too, so the public heard as well, is all the questions and confusion on it.
Right.
So, if he comes prepared with a final draft ready to go, that only takes a few little modifications if need be, and we vote on it and approve it then, that's something I'm a little more comfortable with.
And there's also that we do have, in a sense, a escape valve here. If we can't do it for whatever reason, we don't have a quorum, two of us, three of us get sick or whatever, it's okay, totally, for the county. We are not running against the wall.
Right.
We're only running against something that we are setting up for ourselves.
Right.
If we can't do it in April's meeting, we have to postpone it until May's
No, you
meeting.
may. I'm with you.
That's how it
Right.
is. So if you're more comfortable with doing that then, Brock, I can understand your concern.
Yeah.
To have more time to actually discuss this.
So if there's no,
Continue it till next, sounds like,
continue it.
continue it.
Before we do that, I want to open up for public comment first. Is there any public comment on this issue and what we're trying to do here? Okay, great, thanks. So then, do we need a motion for anything, or we're just going to continue it? Motion to
I'll
continue.
move to continue with direction, with the chair providing direction to Jay as we've discussed. And then, if he can, circulate a draft
Uh-huh.
prior to the meeting, just like circulating a draft of the minutes prior to the meeting, we can be prepared to weigh in with comments rather than wordsmithing during the meeting.
Wonderful.
That's my motion.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Did you want public comments for us?
No, I already took the public.
Oh, we took it on, my apologies.
No problem. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, moving on. The last thing in our old business is review action, general common ground maintenance report and securing weather coverage structure for maintenance equipment on permanent loan to the LMA. And that's kind of my stuff. I've bought.
You should recuse
6
yourself
or-
from the discussion then.
No, I can't.
Yes.
It's part of the town. I don't do that.
No,
So-
it's your personally
How does he
owned
understand?
equipment, you need to recuse yourself
I'm
from
not
your
You're
questioning
interrupting.
it. In fact, we're not even gonna hear this
Conversation.
issue tonight, so I'm gonna explain it. So here we are, I have like 6 or 7 machines there out in the weather, and anybody who's a farmer knows machines don't do well outside of a barn. So I'm hoping to get the LMA to build some kind of structure to protect these machines. They're bought for the LMA, they're on permanent loan to the LMA, and they do all the work for the LMA. Dustin, you remember we had to hire a tractor once to mow the back, I think we paid $600 for one mowing. I mow 2 or 3 times a year, I rototill with them, I do all the cleanup. They're just big machines, front end loaders and bulldozers, and
Well, the initial was actually plowed it.
1 year I plowed it.
No, he plowed it.
Oh, he plowed it? Yeah.
Plowed it, because there's so much structure underneath, we didn't know what was going on. And we
Right.
pulled the pipes, the wires,
Hmm.
and then cleaned it up, basically.
So that lot was a mess back there.
Oh, no, there was a house there, and
There
we never
was.
pulled all the plumbing
Yeah.
out.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, it was a mess, and there was a live wire that was
Really?
run from the, Tony ran the well pump to his house.
Right.
And burned down practically a couple of trees in the meantime when they were yanking it out. So, you know, it was just a good thing to do with heavy equipment because,
At that time.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I also hired a guy and we took out the basement. The basement was still there
Mhm.
after that. They never took out the concrete basement that was built
Well,
in there.
the initial was us, right, Mr. Nielsen, and actually he did a lot because he went into the garden and knocked down that structure, which was the old well,
Right.
and then he actually, basically, our septic tank, which was,
Redwood.
no, had a steel plate, but it had redwood.
Yeah.
And he just literally pushed all that bamboo in there and filled it up so it wouldn't spread anymore.
Right.
Did a good job there, I mean, you know, and basically, you know, all that contamination, there was an old sewer, you know, cesspool, everything got, you know, cleaned up with all that filling. And I can't remember, that's a while, you know, just when we started doing the garden, my God, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
12,
it
15
turned out, it gets, you know, every time we work on it, it gets better and better, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. So all I'm trying to get is a little shed, a little roof over the tools.
You're gonna put it back in the
Right.
back there, is that
Well,
what you're
that's we haven't determined yet.
saying?
And
Oh,
we also, the reason I'm bringing it up and why we're not going to do anything on it is that we're waiting for the special planning areas rules to be changed. We were in conversation with the county, and right now, for a permit, it's like $4,000 in a hole, just to put up, and anything, a shed, even a little roof, they consider a barn. So, but if we wait until the special planning area is approved and the changes are put in it, it'll be like $400. So I'm going to continue this because there's nothing, I'm not going to ask for anything until the special planning area is approved,
yeah, the area.
and then we'll move forward.
This include the tractor you use to fill potholes in the street?
Exactly, I maintain all the roads with one of the tractors, I rototill all the gardens with another tractor, and the other tractor, I do all the mowing.
I mean, I just hate to change implements, so it's easier to have tractors.
Yeah, well, it's, the volunteer work saves a lot of money.
Yeah, I volunteer, I pay for everything. I buy the machines, I pay the fuel, I don't get paid, it's all free from me. So anyway, I'll just open it up to public comment. Anybody have anything to say about this?
Will this fit in with the special planning area historic ordinance of not adding any property? That's my question.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to
Do you
comment?
want to answer that?
Anybody else? Public comment? Okay, public comment is closed. Does anybody truly understand the question? Do you know what you meant by that? Anybody?
Makes no sense.
Okay, I didn't understand.
There's a historic,
We all know,
special planning.
we have the
area.
CC&Rs, we know the
I just thought I would
historical.
explain it since you don't understand it.
That's okay. So moving on to new business, review action?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I thought there might be new business, and then I forgot to remove that from the
Okay,
original agenda. I didn't hear of anything new, so.
so,
like,
does anybody want to comment on that from the public?
we have to-
There's nothing? All right, moving on to communications.
The only communication that I received came this last week from a warning notice from
Oh,
code enforcement to the Locke Management Association regarding a property located at 1271 Locke Road. And I didn't know we had a property with an address. We have our common ground open space. I know that they have lot numbers, so I'm in communication with code enforcement trying to determine what this is. It was a violation for junk and/or alleged, actually, they say in bold print, alleged violation for something called junk and rubbish being stored. So I'm trying to find out what part of the 6.5 acres of common ground is this junk and rubbish, and what does it look like? Where is it? And so forth. So I've emailed them and called them, and I'm still trying to find out. Figure out how to resolve wherever this is happening. I don't know.
Okay. Anybody have any questions about that? Anybody want to talk about it? Any other comment on communications? Moving on to public comments. Now is the time, if you have to make a public comment about what we're doing, how we're doing things, please stand up and make a public comment.
Well, on behalf of my landlord, Sean Stevens,
Yes.
the owner of 13931 property, well, he would like to make a proposal to make an improvement of the easement by covering the alleyway easement with wooden board.
Okay.
And he is willing to do the labor while the LMA provide the material.
Oh,
So I just want to see if the LMA would consider it.
and that I believe is a right-of-way, isn't it? Do we know that by their building?
Do you mean the pedestrian easement between the two properties?
Yes.
So any of those easements are half the responsibility, equally divided between the responsibility of the two adjoining property owners. So the maintenance is their responsibility. So
Yeah.
if we understand you're asking for LMA to contribute materials.
Yes.
Has your landlord spoken with the adjoining property owner to see if they would participate in paying for materials?
Well, I have talked to Clarence. He's the owner of the adjoining property, and he pointed that that easement is considered public easement, and therefore he thinks that we should consider to seek funding from LMA rather than splitting between the two property owners.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's probably something we could bring up again under.
We'll put it on next week's agenda. And there is precedent, because we have built, volunteers have built, the right-of-way have built wooden walkways in
Yeah.
other easements
With donated material.
with donated material and donated labor.
All donated, nothing from the association.
We didn't buy it.
Russell,
Yes.
I think we should also have some sort of written statement, projection of what they're going to be doing.
Oh, yeah, write it up if you could. And-
Okay.
And give it to Debbie or mail it to the, what is it, box?
888.
888.
Okay, back to you.
888, let them know.
Right? Right?
Yes. Well, I know, yes. Sean should write it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Yes.
You have printed in fine print at the bottom of your first page on your agenda, the association bylaws provide that the association shall have 13 directors. That's right out of your bylaws. Article Section 4, or Article 4, Section 2. Shall have 13 directors. This board has not had 13 directors in over 5 years. there's a second paragraph within that same article that states that if any seat goes vacant for 3 months or for 120 days, the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors shall have the right to appoint someone to those vacant seats. You've had seats that have been vacant for 4 and 5 years. This is an illegal board. You haven't had an election of the 6 property owner seats since December of 2009. You're all self-elected, or not all of you. Ms. Lung and Mr. Wu are not self-elected here, but the rest of you are. You're self-elected and crony appointed. Mr. Motlow, you are the tenant of Ms. Mendel and Mr. Ooms, who are 2 executive directors, self-elected executive directors. There's another bylaw within your CC&Rs that states that a secretary and a chairman may not be related persons. Now, if you're related persons living in the same house, you can't be on the executive committee together. There's so much corruption on this board. You're in business together. There are 5 board members who are in business together at the Moon Cafe. You have quorums constantly. A number of you showed up at the courtroom without noticing the public. That was another violation of the Brown Act. And it's shameful what you're doing. You have no more authority to sit in those seats with your important signs in front of you than I would to sit in your seat and govern the town. I have just as much right as do all of these people to... You have no right. You are not elected. You're an illegal board. You need to be dissolved and return the governance of this board back to Sacramento County. Thank you.
Wonderful. That ends public comment. No one else? Anybody want to? You want to make a
You know,
comment?
we know that George passed away, Heiner.
George Heiner,
Yeah,
yes.
should we, send the family members some kind of, basically,
We certainly could.
Oh, send something?
Do you know where one
Yeah.
might send?
the boathouse. That's
The
all.
boathouse, Cure
Okay.
We're gonna
Boathouse.
have a memorial, I think, on Saturday.
Oh, I've not heard anything.
Yeah, we.
Yeah, to the sign, that's why I said no.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Oh,
just to let everybody know, because he did help us out a lot. And
Yeah, it's been part of
Yeah.
that.
okay, I can get a card, you mean?
Hard card,
Yeah, I'll get a card and
yeah. Okay,
pass it around and
we'll sign it.
those directors that aren't able to sign on. You'll report your names, please.
Okay, just a few things I'd like to say before we end with announcements, and that is, the Board of Supervisors, indeed, in our bylaws, has the right to appoint, but they never have.
They've
We've
never
asked
been
them,
informed.
please do not interrupt. They never have. We've talked to them about it. I have talked to Don Natoli, who is the supervisor, and I don't know what they're doing. And the other thing is, we can't force people to be on this committee. People do not choose to fill the seats. We put out feelers, and people are nominated, and they decline. So the people that are sitting here are the
You
ones
still
that...
have to have electoral.
Hammer.
Do not interrupt.
I'm done. We're done.
I'm sorry.
We're done.
Still
You
interrupting?
still have
We're
to
done.
comply with your
We're done with
electoral
you.
rules.
We're done with you. Okay?
You're
You've lost in
self-elected.
court, it's over. Thank you. Okay, moving on.
You're self-elected.
So, anyway, that's the story. Moving on to announcements. Does anybody have any announcements? Good. Nothing else? Well then, I adjourn this meeting at 12 minutes after 7. Thank you all for coming.
Self-elected.